We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
The way that was shot at the end made me think that the brother was never even there. Like, he somehow killed himself. Because the way he pushed it, he just, no hesitation, shoves down on it. It shows this close-up of him screaming as he's dying. And then there's a wide shot, and there's nobody in the room, and he just sort of drops his hands and dies.
Yeah, that's true. He's not there anymore.
Like, you don't see him, like, shove down and then, like, take off, or you don't hear him run out or whatever. Like, it almost felt like he just watched him off himself or something, and then he just takes off where he's not there, and the delusion finally got to him where he killed himself, thinking, like, oh, his brother's going to break in and kill me. Like, it's... Yeah. Again, because it's an unreliable narrator, you have to question everything you see from that point forward in the movie, and it just feels like, I don't know, the way that was done was ambiguous on purpose to me. Like, and you don't see a clear shot of him killing him and then leaving or reacting to it or anything.
Yeah.
So that was one of my. I figured I'd just bring it up now since we just covered it. Yeah, but that was one of my Coppola's. Like, was Oliver's brother ever even there that killed him, or did he just kill himself and imagine that's what happened?
There's a lot of those questions of, was this ever real? I feel like we kind of all ask those questions throughout.
It just seems really hard to just shove a broken piece of pallet into somebody with enough force to just kill him. Like,
I mean, if you're just putting your whole weight into the guy, I guess.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. But it just seemed really fake, but that could have just been like 80s movie fake. Like, the practical effects weren't great, And and it was pretty sharp. It just didn't look sharp enough to me to just like...
Yeah. I don't have a ton of questions. I think my biggest question is, why didn't anybody kick him out of the club after he punched that bouncer in the gut? I mean, that one's that was in any club, they would have immediately like chased in, got him, thrown him out.
Yeah, there's not just like the bouncer. There's the bouncer and all security.
Yeah,
that would have tracked the guy down. And it's not like it was like a dingy, dark place. It was a well lit area, and he wasn't making any attempt to not blend in or to blend in. He was just like walking like Frankenstein through the crowd.
That's my biggest question too. Is how did he not get picked up by the cops after punching that bouncer and going inside? Yeah. I mean, you think they would have called the police after he just assaulted this bouncer?
Exactly. Yeah,
and that was the other thing too. Like, obviously there's newspapers that were printed out during the night of this woman being murdered in the nightclub. And they had this guy walking around the streets of New York covered in blood, screaming and harassing random people literally all night until the morning, and still wandering around, and they never catch him. Like, nobody, no patrolling beat cop sees this guy, or nobody calls the cops on the guy wandering, especially after someone just got murdered.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, I guess if the theme of the movie is to say, part of the theme is that society doesn't care about people that do this type of stuff. Maybe that was intentional. Like, he just, even though he does, he literally murders somebody, nobody cares. Like, no one cares enough to stop him,
Because he's insane. He's obviously insane. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I avoid those people on the street when I see them, which I see them a lot.
Maybe that was part of the point, was like, those people are so insane that we ignore them even when they're doing that type of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I would have a lot of questions about the blood, but I wouldn't stop that guy. I mean, I know.
But you'd think at least somebody would call a cop, and the cop would come check it out. Guy walking around with a weapon covered in blood.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that was my biggest question, but that was one of the most pressing ones.
There's so many there's so many things that would have immediately led them to him in that scene, because the guy who punched him in the stomach, he punched a guy in the stomach, ran in. He's the only dude walking around like a crazy person with fake vampire teeth in his mouth. Then a woman gets bit on the neck and bleeds out. There was a guy who walked in and coughed all over somebody's table.
Yeah, with blood all over.
With blood all over him. Then he attacks somebody on the dance floor. We think it's, could be Rachel, could have been a delusion of him, something that he created. Could have been nobody there. And he's screaming that, I bled her bone dry or whatever.
In front of hundreds of witnesses.
Yeah, in front of all these people. They said there were 300 extras for that scene. So there's 300 people in this place that could have, put him at the scene of the crime. And then all those people outside. Just everything about it is they would have found this guy almost immediately.
Right.
And they know which direction he went off in.
Yeah, and they make a point to show that he's literally wandering around all night. on the streets, like doing this type of stuff. And it wasn't really in like a ghetto area where you would expect there not to be cops patrolling or whatever. It was in like a relatively populated part of New York. So you'd think that there were police patrolling, pretty easy to get hold of.
I mean, maybe it was different in the 80s. I know there was a lot of crime, and they even mentioned it in the commentary of like, it was pretty grimy at this point. And then another film that we're doing soon, Bringing Out the Dead, Nick Cage actually rode around in an ambulance to kind of prep for that role. And he said that they couldn't find anything, like nothing was going on in the city because they had cleaned it up so well. There were so few like murders and stabbings and stuff like that. So, yeah, I guess maybe there were less police patrolling at that point.
Yeah.
But still.
But there were enough to show up.
Yeah.
Investigate a dead woman and then have a newspaper report on it, 5 or 6 hours later for the morning edition of the paper. So something happened. You'd think they'd at least try to canvass the area while they were looking for someone who murdered, or looking for the crazy guy who punched the bouncer and murdered someone in the club.
Yeah. I think that's all I really have.
Yeah, mine were the ones I brought up. Like, was
Rachel
was his psychiatrist real?
Was
a psychiatrist all in his head? Was it I could see it being both ways. It could be that she was real up until the point where he just had the fake conversation with her while talking to a wall, where she solved all of his problems because she hadn't been solving any of his problems.
That was the way that I saw it, but I can see it definitely your way too.
But yeah, I felt like that was the movie saying, no, he's been talking to her in his head the whole time, and that's why she hasn't solved anything for him. And now he's finally clicked for him that, like, oh, he's just missing love, and that's why he's so crazy. And that's why she's not just, oh, well, perfect, I got the perfect girl for you. Here, have this, and go off. And then, of course, he can't even keep that relationship up with her, and he breaks up with her in his apartment
almost
like
immediately
20 minutes later.
This is the perfect person for him.
Showing that he's literally incapable of loving anybody, because even the perfect person in his own head can't keep up with or can't stay with him.